Right then, so if you've been following this BMW series, watching me mess about with this bike, you'll know that recently I snapped the sump guard off, which is why I'm down here looking at it, because I need to figure out how to replace it, or how to get it fitted back anyway. I'm looking at the screws underneath. Obviously I figured out what I need to do with those, and I've got some replacements. But I mentioned in the last video that the design is pretty clever, because what happens is there's a screw that attaches to the sump, there's a screw that hangs down below from the sump. In between there's a little rubber bung, and they're somehow attached to that. If there's too much force applied to the sump guard, rips the little rubber bung, saves your sump, saves you having to sort of drill out any screws that have snapped inside there, and then you just have to get the new ones, replace the old ones, and then put your sump back on. Now the only problem is that I'm probably going to face today, these bolts have probably been in here since this thing rolled off the production line, and if that's the case, then it's going to be an absolute nightmare to get off. Now my first plan is to take out the extension that's holding this last screw in with the rubber bung. That extension looks like this, and I'm hoping that by getting this out, it'll kind of set the tone for the rest of it, because if I can pull it out using a 14mm spanner, then hopefully that'll let me know that these things aren't corroded in as well, which means somebody's been here before, and then that will make me a happy guy. So here goes nothing.
Now as I started to pull on the spanner, I could feel the resistance, so I didn't want to go too mad because of the age of the bike. But by the look on my face, I was still pulling with too much force. I continued with small movements, but I could still feel the resistance, so again, didn't go too mad. A few more twists later, I decided to turn it back the other way just to sort of try and free up the threads, but that's when this happened.
Well, that's not a good start, is it? And here we go. That is pretty much the extension snapped off. No messing about there. Just got to get a drill in there, possibly some helicoils, and then refit that another day. But yeah, in the meantime I've got to order some helicoils, so I'm just going to crack on, see if I can get that one off. That's probably going to snap, so lots of helicoils, new drill bits, all that good stuff, and plenty of copper grease I think going forward. But yeah, great start, great finish. Thanks very much for watching the end.
So with the mole grips at the ready, I started twisting away, checking with my hands from time to time to make sure it wasn't actually snapping, and just turning, and thankfully I got to the point where I could move it out with my hand.
So got that one out, thankfully. So 1 out of 2 isn't bad.
And with the first screw removed, it was time to move on to the rear two. Now, it does look a bit tight because I left the centre stand down. I could have worked with the side stand, or I could have moved the bike and put it onto its side, but to be fair, it wasn't too much aggro. It was just a case of getting a good bite with the mole grips, and then the rest came fairly easy.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. And that's the third one out. Now that was an absolute pain for me, because the 3 that I thought were going to be an absolute nightmare to get out came out quite easy. And the one that I thought was going to be easy, which looked like that, but is a bit shorter there, snapped. So you do live and learn doing these things. Obviously for me, I'm not a mechanic by any stretch of the imagination, so everything I do is trial and error. It just keeps me busy, keeps my brain busy, and I just enjoy myself. So now I've got to learn something new, because I've never had to drill into a bike before to replace a thread so that I can screw something in there. So yeah, I'm going to do a little bit of research, figure out what to do with that, and then crack on.
Now with ABR Festival just around the corner, I've had to crack on and fit the sump guard.
Oh my god. Oh no. It's everywhere. Oh. wrong hole.
It's worth noting that the rear screws are silver in colour, whereas the front are all black, and it's just a case of putting them in their original holes, twisting them hand tight.
Now with these ones at the front, it's the longest thread that hangs down and then the short thread that goes into the body.
And simply refitting the sump guard is the final piece of the puzzle, which will make my bike safe back on the road.
So thankfully that job wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. The 3 screws that I thought were going to be the pain came out really easy, and the 1 screw that I thought was going to be easy snapped inside, and it's going to remain in there until I can get the stuff I need and the time to drill it out and then rethread and then put the new one in. But as for now, the sump guard is held on by 3 screws, which means the oil filter and the drain plug are safe from any stones popping up off the road. And I can now get the bike ready for ABR Festival, where I'm probably going to start bringing you videos about that over the next week or 2. But as for now, I'm going to bring this video to a close. Thanks very much for watching.